Welcome back to another episode of Point B, a Sibros podcast where we interview industry experts about the latest innovations and trends in automotive technology and the connected vehicle industry. Tune in to learn about topics ranging from the next generation of electric vehicles to advances in connectivity and micromobility.
Hi, I'm Steve Schwinke, and welcome to Point B, where we discuss the emerging trends in the transportation industry. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about overcoming usage hurdles to increase tech adoption in automotive. And today, I'm really excited to speak with Scotty Reiss, the founder of A Girl's Guide to Cars, which is the leading automotive site for women. And its mission was sharing information about cars on women's terms. And Scotty also contributes regularly to car content through Forbes, Parents, Pure Wow, and other magazines. So Scotty, welcome to Point B.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
So let's just start talking a little bit more about A Girl's Guide to Cars.
So the mission comes out of, I think, one of the most crazy and confounding statistics in all of human history. And that is women buy or influence the purchase of 85% of all cars. That's over $500 billion a year in new car sales. And yet they are not engaged as consumers. There's very little content written specifically for women. The language around cars is not about how women think about cars and use cars, drive cars. The content is not designed to invoke emotional attachment to cars or emotional engagement with their cars. If you look at most automotive content, it's either sort of what I think of as like hard appliance type of information. Here's how to maintain it. Here's what you need to know. It's finance focused. It is enthusiast focused. Here's how to rev it up, make it go faster. And yet there's almost no consumer voice and no consumer content created around this amazing thing that we own and the amazing experiences it brings us. And when it comes to content for women, there's so much content out there in other areas, and beauty and fashion and style and parenting and decor and travel and food, and why not cars? And so that was our mission 10 years ago, was to create a conversation that invites women in and gives women the confidence to be an engaged car owner by letting her talk about cars in terms that are important to her.
And that emotional attachment, you also talk to your readers about how do you enhance that experience, or how do you be more productive while you're in the vehicle, and some of the tips that they can start thinking about to really maximize that time that they do have to spend in a car. Is that correct?
We definitely spend, there's two sides to that coin, really. There's the pre-sale and the post-sale. And so our goal is to give women enough information about a car as they're considering a purchase, so that they're making the right purchase. I mean, there's nothing worse than plopping down $40,000 or $50,000 on a car and realizing a few weeks to a few months into that ownership that you made the wrong choice. Our goal is to help women to be confident, know that they're buying the right things when they buy a car. What are the packages? What's available? What are the features in a trim level? What are the things that you need, and what are the things that you want? And make sure you get the things that you need. And so our goal is to help women make that correct purchase decision. The second part of that is, once she's made that purchase decision and she's in her car, to help her really get the most out of it. Maybe she didn't get Apple CarPlay. Well, that's not too late. You can still go get Apple CarPlay. Maybe she didn't, maybe she opted for something that she didn't really understand how it works, like brake hold. My favorite technology in new cars right now is brake hold. And we kind of joke, like, it's so hard to hold your foot on the brake, but when you get it and you know how to use it, and you use it at every intersection, it changes your life. It takes so much physical stress out of crawling traffic. So getting our readers up and getting them really humming along with the technology that they have in their cars, learning how to use all those systems. And there's they call it a take rate, the amount of number of consumers who actually use technology that's in their car. The take rate can be really low, something like 10 to 30% of people who get advanced technology in their car actually use it. That means they're paying for something they're not using. It also means there's safety systems, there's connection systems, there's advantages, there's all kinds of great stuff that is there and you're not even using. And you should use it. It's there, you've paid for it, and it's going to make your life better if you do. So that's the other part of our goal. And then the last thing I'll add to that, which is sort of a fundamental element under both, is that manufacturers should really support these efforts of education, not just the sale, but also the education. Because once a consumer learns how to use your technology and they're used to where all the buttons are and they're used to what the interface looks like and they're used to how this car feels, guess what if they like it, they're going to come back and buy another one, or they're going to recommend it to someone else, or they're going to look at something else in that family for their partner or their parent or their child. So it really is how you build a customer, is by creating this great experience from top to bottom.
I couldn't agree more. And I have like 30 more questions to ask, so I'm going to try to prioritize them. I've been in the auto industry most of my career. One of the first things that we tried to do is demystify what the different warning symbols were on the vehicle. Like, does this mean a flat tire? What does a check engine light mean? And that was 20 years ago. Now you have active safety systems in these vehicles, like lane keep assist, right? And forward collision alerts. And I don't know if the dealers are spending enough time really educating the customer about some of these very important features. And so how do we solve that problem? How do we really empower people to get to know their vehicle, understand all these features that are at their disposal, but they don't even know that they're there?
That's such a good question. And it's the answer is something that nobody wants to hear. And that is simplify the language. That's the biggest hurdle that we have towards tech adaptation in cars, is everybody calls their system something different. And I appreciate that Honda has Honda Sensing and, Ford has Copilot 360. And that's actually helpful, I think. Within that framework, the language needs to be simple and it needs to be human, so that people can understand when they're looking at one car and it has adaptive cruise, and they looked at another car and it has adaptive cruise, and they look at a third car and it has adaptive cruise, and they read the one line description. They go, okay, that does the same thing. Now I understand that what these things are, because I'm starting to, it's that repetition and it's that reinforcing the message. And that's what we're doing as an industry by giving everything the same name and using standardized names, is we're reinforcing that message.
I just go back to 20 years ago with anti-lock braking systems, right? There were vehicles that now it's just standard, right? And everyone knows, just apply braking pressure and the ABS system will do that pumping of the brake in simplistic terms for you to help stop under, slippery type of conditions. But there was a lot of education that went into that. But how do you educate people when they can't experience it?
So the question of engagement, how do we engage non-engaged consumers, it's such a perplexing one. And it's one that is really very much at the core of what we do. Driving engagement is really critical, I think, to overall adaptation of technology across the board, not just women. 35% of our audience is male, and they come to us because they're looking for that plain speak. I think the more that people are able to experience cars in a great way, in a more hands-on way, to drive it and to feel it and to hear it, even if it's just a test drive, is so important.
I always thought that actually having data, and that's, our company does that, is provide, how the vehicle is performing and provide that data, that information in a consumable way, even to the owner of the vehicle, and building trust through data.
Absolutely. And so, there's one key component to understanding our cars, and I think that doesn't really exist. I don't ever see it anywhere, but you see it in other sectors, and that is value. What's the value of your asset? And a car, as long as it's running, is an asset. It might be an asset that depreciates in price, in value, but it's still an asset nonetheless. And, you look at your investment accounts and see what that looks like on a regular basis. You look at the value of your house and see what that looks like on a regular basis. Honestly, I think if we looked at cars that way, I think more consumers would be more engaged in using the features that are in that car, maintaining the function, making sure everything's in good working condition, upgrading things on a regular basis, and then maybe even upgrading the technology in the car. So as you offer, here's an over-the-air update for this camera, and it's $500. And what's the long-term value of that? I get to use it now and it's still going to be worth, $400 of those $500 in 5 years. That would be an amazing detail that would make me say, oh, so I get to use this basically for free for the next 5 years. If I'm only going to keep the car for 5 more years, I get to use this for free. That's a pretty good deal.
It gets me into a little bit of a interesting question as we talk about the software-defined vehicle. The idea here is that we're going to be able to update the vehicle with new features. Do you think that's going to keep customers maybe, owning their vehicles longer? Is the purchase decision for a vehicle more focused on the exterior styling, which a software update really can't, fix?
Interesting question. There's a couple of cars that have come out recently that looking at them from the outside, you would hardly know they've changed. So Range Rover last year came out with their new flagship SUV. And on the outside, it looks almost the same as the prior model. And that's by design. High-end, super high-end luxury cars tend to have more subtle changes from one model year to the next. And there's nothing like spending $100,000 on a car and then having the manufacturer dramatically change the design in a year or two. And then all of a sudden your investment looks very outdated. So they do that with intention so that their customers buy something for a long time. And that's something that we're going to see more and more. I've been hearing this for a few years now and thinking about not just the software, but also the hardware, the hard details inside a car, everything from like headliners and seats and dashboards and floorboards and all of those things. Manufacturers are looking at how they separate the shell of the car from its interior and how they can retrofit. Because, you think about it, if you were to go and buy like a 2015 Toyota Prius, the engine is fine. The thing that's taken the most wear are the seats, that and the carpets. That is like all those soft things are where you really feel the wear and tear on that car. The engine, the chassis, the suspension, all that's probably fine. That'll probably go for another, 15 years. It'll probably go to 300,000 or 400,000 miles with nothing but oil changes. Toyota is kind of famous for that. So, but then you get in the car and you're like, oh, there's stains on the seats. And that's why people buy new cars, is because they want that brand new, never been breathed in experience. They want to be able to make it their own, and they want the warranty. And so I think we're going to end up seeing these hybrids where cars are retrofitted with new technology. They're retrofitted with new seats. They're retrofitted with new details. And the whole idea of the extended warranty, so that when whatever work has been done to the engine and to the motor and that kind of thing, that there's a warranty, and they have some sense of protection in their investment.
I want to, thank you for joining us today. We certainly could spend another few more hours talking about these topics, but I'd be sensitive of your time and hope to have you again on the Point B podcast. So.
I would love that. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Point B. Join us next time for more auto tech innovations and trends. Point B is brought to you by Sibros.